Greta, when I introduce you, feel free to say something about yourself.
Okay.
I just get to tell them who I am. What massage therapist, running coach, whatnot. So. All right, we are live, getting ourselves going. For those that are on Zoom, if you could set your chat to all panelists and attendees, that'd be wonderful. For those that are on Facebook, let us know that you're out there and watching. Give us some love to let us know that, like I said, that you're watching, and if you want to be part of the raffle, that way we can get you counted. For those back here at Zoom, if you could let us know where you're coming from and whether you're an athlete or support an athlete somehow as a parent or a coach or a health practitioner, that'd be wonderful. So I'm Tom Church. I am this is the Athlete Performance Mastery Summit. I am a clinical sports massage therapist, performance therapist, and running coach in the Boston area. And co-hosting with me is Greta.
I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm a massage therapist, a personal trainer, a neurokinetic therapist, and I teach kids yoga and trying to specialize in corrective exercises. So welcome, everybody.
Great. And it looks like we have the usual crew back here on Zoom. Welcome Royce and Sue. Coming in from Austin, Wisconsin. And the Philippines. So it must be getting pretty late down there, huh? And Mexico. Cool. Let's get things going here. I would like to introduce our final speaker of the summit, an international expert in the field of applied sports psychology, Dr. Margaret Ottley. Welcome, Dr. Ottley.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here.
So Dr. Ottley is a professor of sport and exercise psychology in the exercise science program at Westchester University in Pennsylvania. She received her postdoctoral specialty in curriculum and instruction for health and physical education from Purdue University, her PhD and Master's of Ed in Sport and Psychology from Temple University, and a BA in Child Development and Family Studies from Spelman College in Atlanta. She also has a teacher certification diploma from Vasilian Teachers College in Trinidad, specializing in elementary education. Dr. Ottley has recently completed a second Master's of Science degree in Clinical Mental Health Counseling from Westchester University. Some of her fieldwork was with Temple University's Athletic Department Mental Health and Wellness Program. Dr. Ottley is a certified mental performance consultant through the Association for Applied Sports Psychology Association and inducted as an AASP Fellow by her peers for her contribution to the field of applied sport and performance psychology, especially in the Caribbean. Dr. Ottley is the founder chair of Sankofa High Power Sports and Performance Psychology, and she is an international expert in the field of applied sports psychology. She was invited by the Trinidad and Tobago Ministry of Sport to design and implement culturally specific 3-year coaching, education, and elite athlete programs in sports psychology leading up to the London Olympics. Consequently, London Olympics was Trinidad and Tobago's most successful Olympic Games in its entire history. Dr. Ottley was a sports psychology consultant at 4 Olympic Games, Rio, London, and Athens with the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic team, and Beijing with the USA track and field team. Dr. Ottley has worked with the Trinidad and Tobago women's soccer and netball teams, the Caribbean Regional Champion under-19 youth cricket teams, and served conscientiously for a number of Commonwealth and Pan American Games. Dr. Ottley presently provides mental performance services to USA Track and Field and the National Scholastic Athletic Foundation meets. In addition, she had the honor of serving on Dove Inc.'s #MyBeautyMySite international campaign that focused on promoting body image and self-esteem for girls and women. She's also an accomplished field hockey player. Ready for some questions?
Ready to go.
All right. So you have been an athlete since you were a child, competing in track and field, and most notably in field hockey. Was sports psychology part of sport training in Trinidad and Tobago, or did you find your way into the field by another route?
When I was growing up, it was not a part of, in fact, we knew nothing about sports psychology. It was usually like, okay, go get them, yeah, and you know, fight hard, you gotta have a killer instinct. So those were our pep talks that we would get when, you know, just before. But my transition into the mental aspect of sport was, as a field hockey player, even when I was playing at the highest level, I played at every level in Trinidad and Tobago, from the youth, you know, going to juniors, senior levels. I still felt like I never played my best game, and didn't have people around me that were, you know, they were very nice, but they couldn't take me to the other level. So I felt like I plateaued, and I actually hung my boots up, and I'm like, I'm done. So, but Trinidad and Tobago was going through this, you know, this amazing period with football, we call it, you know, you call it soccer. And they had a behavioral psychologist working with them. And her name, you know, she's Dr. Ottley as well, not related, which was really interesting. So that was the first time I became aware that, you know, there could be someone that would work from the mental perspective with athletes. So I decided, you know, I went to, that's how I migrated from the country and went to Spelman College to pursue that path to become a sport psychology specialist, a sports psychologist, so that I could, it was really to fix me. So that I could understand, you know, what my journey was like, and so help others.
Wonderful. And did that journey help you discover more about yourself?
Oh, certainly. I'm still discovering more about myself. This, especially during this pandemic time, which I was studying for my national board exams in clinical mental health, which I'm now have another certification added to it. So now I'm a national certified counselor. So,
Congratulations.
but it was quite a challenge.
Right. So I have mostly thought of sports psychologists as a coach when contracts short term after injuries, or when a mental block happens around training. Could you talk about this?
Yeah, your perception is widespread. Most people really believe that, that when you have an issue, or when a team has an issue, or when an individual has an issue, then you bring in a sports psychologist. A lot of coaches believe that, and for a while I thought that as well when I was a young grad student coming out, that we will help athletes who have issues, until I became, right out of grad school, I was recruited to some of to me, the world's best sports psychologists out there. Very well known. They were all working with professional sports, the NBA, baseball. And they showed me the difference between coming into a team just to outfires versus being there, being present, and helping coaches, being a part of the unit to help coaches coach better in a way where they can see the athletes' needs and address those, and also to help the athletes to understand their role inside of the mix, and their personal contribution and their team contributions. And in a lot of ways, how they think, managing their thoughts, shifting their thoughts from positive, and their fears, dealing with those before they go out on the field. So we became, at least the way I see it now, we enhance performance, and we are relevant, because an athlete it's not just about the physical, powerlessness. It's about that those fears that we all have inside of us. It's about just wanting so much to achieve this dream and having all this talent inside of them that they can't get out. And that's our role. Our role is to help them to find their way and to discipline themselves. So it's proactive.
Gotcha. Understood. So I got to looking through my questions and seeing. So as a proactive measure, you're helping the athlete become a better performer. And could you dive into this more? What sorts of things are you doing with athletes to help with that?
I'm not sure if I got the question too clearly, but could you repeat that last part of the question?
Yeah. Could you talk more about what you're doing in being proactive with the athletes?
And when you were asking that question, I kind of chuckled because I saw Sue's question on how do you deal with a lazy athlete, and how to really who have great talent, So I think it would merge nicely inside of there, and so that's where part of our role is as well, in helping with self-determination. Helping them to understand, that motivation is a process. So motivation, for example, would range from a motivation where, you could be very much not want to do anything. That's not our athletes. Our athletes, at least they're there. But there are a lot of reasons why athletes play the sport. And we have to find out, from the athlete's narrative, why they're there, and help them to really develop the purpose, because they have this gift and I like to say the gift has chosen them, and they really don't, a lot of them don't know what to do with it. And that's why coaching is so important, and good coaches is so important to really help them through to find that what it means, and where they want to go. And it's a challenge. It's really a struggle. So coaches could start with things like, a reward system, so like Little League, you'd see them going for pizza after, or, having that, that interactive or interpersonal relationship with each other. That's really an important aspect. So I could tease this question apart because I work with individual athletes and I work with teams. So it would be just a little different when you are on a team, and versus when you're like a track athlete, just working. But all in all, it's still about external motivations, trying to get them to get into that ultimate motivation, which I know all coaches are looking for, where it is a total autonomy, where athletes could come to practice all willing to develop their skills and to get to some level of competence and mastery. And that comes from the inside out. That is really what we strive for, to get to that where they can play for the satisfaction of just being able to have the opportunity to go to the field, the track, now I'm, ocean, I'm working with people who are in the ocean. So it's really helping them. And sometimes you have to just give them rewards, those all conditioning, just give them this when they do something successful, then you give them the praise and you give them the encouragement and you give them, it is a challenge. And that's why we are there.
Right. So I could change topic here a bit. So it's becoming more public how things like weight shaming, coaches abuse, even though we see this with USA Track and Field, many other national teams are doing a lot of training to make the coaches aware of the abuse, the shaming, the bullying and whatnot, but we still see that it exists. We heard this from Mary Kane earlier this year and see the results in the news with gymnastics, track and field, swimming, other sports. Could you walk us through how you would treat an athlete trying to handle one of these issues?
Yeah, it's a really multi-system, multidisciplinary kind of approach. And it's one of the reasons why I like working with NSAF, because you see, someone wrote that sport is a microcosm of society. Because you would have coaches who reflect the same, in our body of coaches, some of them would have the same issues as you would find in society. I have had the privilege of working with some of the most inspiring coaches out there. But coaches do come in, just as human beings, they'll come in with all of their flaws and not understanding how to really help develop the skill set of an athlete, this talent that the athlete has. So a lot of them don't see the athletes. What they see is the talent. And they forget that there is a cognitive person, a thinking person, that there is a feeling person inside of there who may have some issues as well. So when, if the coaches are misdirected, then they will, because they're so focused on the talent and getting the trophy or getting to, those accolades of being a great coach, they can focus on, they can say anything, and then you hear all of the hazing and the, and all of the other ills that you see in sport, as you will see in society. The abuse of all kinds, emotional, that verbal abuse, those physical abuse that you see in sports, you see it in society as well. The coaches that I have dealt with, they are the ones that I, have such great respect for. And I know there are a lot of them out there as well. Those are the ones who see the whole athlete. So they learn how to, harness this talent and have the athlete see the dream and believe in the dream, and they structure it where they can have, they still have rules, and how they present themselves, their stature, they don't just say it, they live it. So if they want discipline from athletes, they are disciplined as well. So they walk the walk, they don't just talk. And for me, when I come in, I always listen to the coach's philosophy, what they're trying, where they're trying to go, and where the athletes are. For us in NSAF, what we do is there's accountability. So let me just say this. When you have a youngster, like maybe even you introduce a youngster to sport. So whether it's through, very young age, because most sports are starting at a very young age, through elementary school, you would also see parents around. But when they reach and they have this great gift and that could take them to another level, sometimes we give we let the coaches alone do all of the grooming, and we don't pay attention. And that's why I said it's multidisciplinary. The parents have to be involved. In NSAF, our parents can come to every session. You know, you know, people can see what's happening. They can hear what's happening. Our parents grow inside of the mix. When we go to Cuba, for example, and we take these youngsters and these parents entrust us to travel with their children, you know, a lot of parents come, and I am holding parent session, and parents they want to know how can I work with my you know, they can't handle losing, so how can I, or they have performance anxiety, how could I, yeah, so it is helping them just with information, giving them structure. One of my favorite coaches, you know, with John Cheney who mentored me in grad school, you know, he would say, hey, listen, you come to practice. He would say, I can't compete with the bigger universities with bigger programs, I should say, who take the most talented athletes out there. But when I bring my athletes, when I select my athletes, I give them structure. You know, so he was a part, you know, he made himself a part of every system, you know, the education. He knew what was going on. He knew their professors. He knew, you know, what they were taking in school, what their majors would be. He knew, he gave them rules. He doesn't really have like curfew, but he would say, practice is at 5:30 in the morning, because he knew that he didn't have the discipline of getting up early. But he was at 5:30 in the morning, and everybody knew that 5:30 in the morning, you gotta be at practice, and if you're 10 minutes early, you're late. So it's a kind of discipline, but it's that love and that care and meeting parents and having the nutritionist there, and having access to you know, the mental, you know, services as well, the counseling departments. So it's a multi, right? I know I said a lot, but I kind of wanted to say we can't leave our children to just the coaches. We have to be a part of it, and coaches have to bring in other people inside of the system.
That's wonderful, and thank you for explaining that so well. So we also know that athletes deal with things like depression, and that can affect training. How do you integrate sports psychology into the athletes' training when they are dealing with something like depression?
Yeah, as I said, athletes go through everything that you see outside and the wider population. Athletes go through them. You know, and when we talk about depression, we're talking about something that is, you know, that, you know, sometimes they get stuck in their past and that they hold on to, and they can't let it go, right? So anxiety, it's concern about the unknown, the future. In depression, it's really about the past, yeah? So we are meeting athletes in the present. So a lot of times I want to know, you know, good things. I'm a feel-good sports psychologist, right? So I want to know, you know, like, when was the first time, you know, you started playing the sport? And they always smile, you know, and they'll say, when I was in middle school, I started playing the sport, and you could see it light up, and I want to know what made them light up. You know, so, you know, it's bringing in those endorphins, those feel good, you know, hormones, and so that they can talk about it. I want to hear their narrative. I want to hear what was the first time they started feeling the way that they're feeling presently. And every athlete that I've talked with can tell me, oh, when I was in high school, this happened. Or when I was in middle school, this happened. And that was, you know, that was a pattern, because what it developed, because they were so, you know, emotionally young, that they didn't have the skill set to really deal with it. So when they grow, they're growing as a middle schooler into an adult, and still being a middle schooler in a part of them. And they don't have the skill set, the tools, you know. We talk about coping mechanisms, and they don't have the tools to really heal that part of them. So they sink inside of it when they lose, or when somebody says something that, I don't use the word trigger quite a lot, but but people have patterns. So for me, I find the patterns and then I interrupt the patterns so that they can see that, wait, when I was a middle schooler or when I was in high school and this happened, it wasn't my fault. It was, and they look at the circumstances inside of there so that they can come. So it's really about conversations, having a conversation, letting them have the aha moments for themselves. But for me, I listen. I want to hear. I want to hear their narrative.
Right. So I'm thinking more I'm suddenly flustered here.
That's okay. Get your thoughts together. Let me just shout out, Steve, I love you too, man.
For those athletes that trying to figure out their narrative and understanding their those feel-good times when they were maybe younger or some other points in their careers, are you talking them through or teaching them some sort of phrases to repeat, or how are you helping them when you're not present?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So it's once they have gone inside of a self-search, it's always, it's not a one-time thing. It takes it takes time. But inside of there, for me, I want them to understand thoughts shifting and emotional regulation. Yeah, so so tools are important. And sometimes I just finished, working with a young 14-year-old, and it was building a day-to-day, very, very simple, very basic program. And say, hey, listen, when you get up in the morning, when you open your eyes, what do you do? So we build and I give affirmations, so, that they can say, something positive to themselves. And sometimes it's just a script, like, just for today, I will focus on my work, or just for today, I'll be grateful to others. And just for today, I'll be kind. So that they can, because everything, I practice energy medicine. So everything is we're all energy. So you would find that sometimes, a lot of these, when we talk about inside of mental health, how it manifests in our bodies would be through energy. So it suppresses us, so it could overexcite us. For me, I want them to get back inside of that regulation where they can be at optimal level. But it must be step by step. And sometimes they really don't know. So I give them little things, and they would write daily, like listening better, paying attention to details, setting small goals, and being okay with not with the performance outcome, but really just that they have achieved, finding little things that they have achieved during that day or during practice. And I work inside, inside the sports, and also out, out in, whether it's in school. I know, things about my athletes. I want to know what they're studying in school, what they're reading, what is their favorite subjects, because everything, it's just one person. It's not, I don't say it's an athlete and this is all. Everything would influence everything else, because the body is a system. So how their approach when they go to practice, like be open, be willing to change, paying attention, asking questions, engaging, asking, talking to the coach about strategies, being a part of their own, development, be willing to learn new things, being punctual, as Coach Cheney would say. Those are just step by step, paying attention to what they eat in the morning. Some athletes would say, I don't eat breakfast. But and that's because they get up at a certain time, sometimes 11 o'clock and sometimes 12 on certain days. So unless they're going to school. So it's like, okay, let's see what you can do through, or can you have at least something, energy bar or something, or fruit. I'm not a nutritionist, but if an athlete would need a nutritionist, then like working at me learning from Temple University, it was more like, hey, listen, we have a nutritionist in place. So I could always say, okay, well, this is where I would like you to go. All right. But it's just little things. Drink a lot of water, because hydration is so important to an athlete and to the to the lymphatic system of the body as well. So I built a daily program from when they wake up in the morning, the positive affirmations, what they eat, how they access information, and some of the meditations. That's important too. I teach them how to meditate to regulate the emotions.
Great. So do you have some exercises, some of your favorite exercises for calming the athlete before competition? And if you could, maybe you could walk us through one.
Well, it depends, of course, on the athlete. Not all athletes. I have learned in my early days, and fortunately, I wasn't the one who did it, but an athlete told me, like, when I'm going through something, I don't want a sports psychologist to tell me, breathe. I don't want to breathe. So I've learned to take that out of, even when I had intentions of doing it. But so I on tour, I had an athlete who was, and she had, an issue just before she went out, really like hyper, anxious. So it's more kind of taking her away from and walking a little bit and talking. And I talk about stupid stuff sometimes, like what socks you wearing, where did you find those, just little things. Because for me, when they're going through those moments, their pattern is that they're stuck inside of a thought. And that thought itself, or it's a fear usually, and they can't move out of it. And everything else, the body goes totally on alert. Now, where the HPA axis is just like want to protect them from some kind of threat. The performance is as much as the fear of a snake or saber-tooth, tiger. The body doesn't know the difference. It would react the same way. So you go into that fight, flight, freeze kind of thing. So I have athletes who say, I'm on the blocks and I can't feel my legs, because the body is trying to protect, So what could cause the adrenaline to just, to calm down, and so that you can get the heart rate down and all of that, is to shift the thoughts. Right, so I use it in a way. Sometimes it's just me changing the rhythm of my voice. I get very mellow, very slow. So and even our steps, everything that they want to do, I'm aware of it, and I mirror them, and then I back off a little bit. I change the rhythm. So if they're walking too fast, I will slow down, and they walk now with me, and they walk my pace without even realizing that they're shadowing what I'm doing, and my voice gets very melodic. So then I can say, okay, now exhale fully. Let's talk about this. What are you about to do? So I get them into the task. Sometimes I take them back to their familiar place, like their high school track. And I say, hey, a 400-meter race, or a 400-meter track is the same anywhere you go, whether you're in Cuba, whether you're in Costa Rica, whether you're in, it doesn't really matter. It's 400 is 400. So you're already familiar with it. So tell me about it when you're on that home court and you see the smile, and that's what I'm looking for, where they relax. And so sometimes taking you through, I could say just to externalize the emotion, I can say just focus on one object. If you have an object in front of you, like a pen, just look at it and look at all of the, features of the pen. I have a blue pen right now. The ink is halfway down, it has a nice little fine nib. You and then I say, okay, so I'll time you for 1 minute. So, look at it and don't blink. And I time them for 1 minute. I say, so any thoughts, be aware of any thoughts that's coming through your mind. Don't try to block them. Just let them pass like a train going through a station. Just acknowledge them and let them keep going. And they stare, they look. Focus on your breathing. Let your breathing go all the way down to your solar plexus, feel the rib cage go up and out so the lungs can get more air. The important part of breathing is exhaling, so get that carbon dioxide out so that the fresh oxygen can come in and replenish your legs and wherever you're feeling any tense energy, direct the air there. And let's go do what you gotta do. Yeah, I feel calm. I don't know about you.
It's wonderful how just a simple object like a pen or getting them just to slow down their movement it can be so effective in calming them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel calm right now. I'm chill.
Perfect. I'm going to pass it on to Greta to do some audience Q&A because I know we have a number of questions from the audience.
Christine is saying that she loved it. Good one, Christine. And Christy. Awesome.
Oh, right. I'm actually going to take some questions and throw them all together because I feel like they're very related. And kind of reflect back a little bit on some things that you have said. So we have questions regarding performance anxiety that's debilitating coming up to a competition. We have questions about athletes who think too much. They're too caught in their head. And athletes who can't handle the pressure and choke. And I feel like it's all really kind of the same thing about not being present. And just listening to what you talk and this beautiful meditation that you just take them through with this pen, where it's taking them away from the spinning mind, the outside of the wheel, and bringing them right to the center of the wheel and getting them to be in the present moment again. That's what I'm hearing you say. And so I have questions from the audience about how to deal with performance anxiety, how to get out of your head, and how to not choke under pressure. And I'm guessing you're going to relate it to getting in the present moment. And but I would love to hear your thoughts if you can be specific, if you have like a specific strategy to kind of reel them back in to like their center.
I'm a storyteller, so it depends on what's going on with the athlete inside of there. As I said, performance anxiety is on the unknown, about the unknown. So I already know that they have they want to win, or they're not sure that what's going on in their head most likely would be, I'm not prepared enough, or I'm running next to the last state champion. So I already know the kind of thoughts that they have, more unhealthy thoughts. And I also know that the number one fear in the world is failure. So that is what would cause them to choke, right? And the fear of failure, the fear of, athletes say all the time, I don't want to let down my teammates. I don't want to let down my coaches. So those are all, things that are very cognitive, and cognitive things, if you have a negative thought, then chances are you're going to have a negative feeling, and the chances are it's going to debilitate your performance. So that's how it works, and it goes vice versa, right? So I actually draw that triangle for my athletes and say, hey, listen, this is what is going on. So what are we going to do about it? Are we going, now we know that we have to do some thought shifting inside of that moment. Hey, listen, I practice for this. I'm ready to go, right? So you change it's cognitive restructuring in that moment, because it's the thought that has you, that would have you inside of that performance state, and where your body goes into the fight or flight and freeze the response, because it wants to shut down to protect you. So it's to shift the thought, right? From negative to positive. So always athletes with positive, especially those who call themselves perfectionists. And we talk about being a perfectionist, which is really no such thing. And we always are striving to go. So I eliminate that or explain that word before it's eliminated, right? Because it's always. So I always say, competition, you should always, an athlete should always be willing to compete, because competition teaches you where you are. It gives you information. Losing gives you information. It doesn't tear down the soul of who you are as a person. It gives you information about what you need to tweak, what you need to, so I change the perspective of the athlete. And in that moment, they can also, I use quotes like, choking will help you learn how to chew better. Yeah, so I give them little things, because if they change that cognition, chances are they're going to feel better, because it's going to ignite the feel-good hormones, and things like dopamine that is, that keeps the muscle fibers stable. We know that in the most profound way, the lack of dopamine is associated with Parkinson's disease. Right. So in that little moment when we're shaking, our body system isn't functioning well. But changing the thoughts or making it not as mystical, being aware of it, because we treat it as though it is some kind of spider that we're afraid of, or snake, right? We demystify it and say, hey, listen, this is going to tell me where I am. So I could go back to the drawing board, work with my coaches, and come again. And I'll come again. And I'm going to come again after you. And I'm going to do it until I can overcome you. So the next time we meet is either we're here or we're there. Right? And that is the stay, and that's the stick-to-itness that you hear some sport psychologists talk about. Yeah, sport is no place for the faint-hearted. We're into competition. We're hungry for this. So I give them that kind of talk inside of that moment. The tree doesn't know how strong it is until it faces a storm. Yeah. So that's.
I love that so much. Yes. So just a little tangent from that. I'm talking about question about positive self-talk. So I heard you talking about just replacing the negative statements with positive ones. And so both in general and before competition, what is the best way to teach these athletes some positive self-talk, or best way to implement it? I have this weird little habit where I put stuff on my bathroom mirror because I'm going to see it every day, you know? I don't know how you feel about that, but like if you could just give a little advice on how these athletes can adopt positive self-talk.
Hey, listen, I come from a philosophy. I'm all Caribbean, right? So it's what you're doing, it's fine. So you don't have to change it. But you know, being positive is a beautiful part of your human nature. It is not a thing that you use as a, like this little instrument that you have to remind yourself. You go up, if you have kids, they're just getting up in the morning, fixing them breakfast, that's positive. That's being, it's an energy in itself. It is not positive in order to do something. It's positive as a beautiful human being. That's what positive is. And we have to start this pandemic time. I tell my athletes all the time, this is a time for self-reflection, to see how amazing a person you are. And that is the energy you walk inside of, whether it's to go to work, go to school, whether it's to go on the track. The track is just another part of your life and your life purpose. So find the meaning of your life. And your talent is to contribute. It just gives you a direction to contribute. If you were into computers, you would be building computers for other people, contributing to help. You are an athlete, so you embrace that as something beautiful. It is not a task. When you go to practice, it's not a task that, I have to go to practice. That is a misuse of your gift. Your gift is supposed to make people see you and see how amazing you are. And that's what positive is. I may not have answered your question, but it's positive.
So to me, like just peeling back the layers we put on top,
Yeah, we walk around with a lot of
that positiveness that we're born with, right?
We're walking around with a lot of sticky notes of things that's already inside of us. We're beautiful. We smile. That's positive. Something inside of us makes us so positive with a purpose. Yes? PP, positive with a purpose.
All right, so we have another question about mental toughness and being able to foster that in athletes without losing the compassion and the courtesy. How do you find that balance between being kind, being tough, having compassion?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with, facing up to opponents, because that's what you do. We come out here to compete, and we could make a decision. Athletes have to be very honest with self, because there are a lot of athletes who really join a team for different reasons. They join a team because they want to be part of something big. They want the uniform. They want the scholarship. Be honest with yourself. If you are out here, you could say, I want to participate. I traveled with a Toronto netball team, and everybody was very much into, they're not really the top ranking team, but they really have great, they're good at the match pass and the opening ceremony, because and I was listening to other people talk about them, and it was almost like they were there for entertainment and an open ceremony only. So I had to pull this team together. I'm like, let's have a conversation. Are you here to participate? Or let me know how I'm preparing, helping you prepare for this competition. Are you here to compete, or are you here to participate? If you're okay with just participating and everybody and you like, okay, that's fine, I will help you do that. If you're here to compete, then we change the game. We go with a certain attitude. Winning, as Coach Cheney would say, winning is an attitude. And you have to, harness all of that, in that you're going out there every single game or every single match, every single opportunity you get to compete, you bring your best self. And it's like a conversation you're having with your opponent. It's like a question and answer. It's like an exam that you're doing in school. They bring the test questions. If you're prepared, you get an A. If you're not prepared, know that you're not prepared. But as great Michael Jordan would say, I hope even when I have my B game, I hope even my B game could beat you. Yeah, but just be honest. No, if you want to, don't tell your coach that, yeah, I want to do this, and in your heart you want to hang out with your friends. Or if you want to compete, then you get that self-determination. You go to the drawing board, you go to practice on time, you work, and you're a student of the game because you're thirsty for knowledge and you want to learn from your coaches. Yeah. Yeah. So it's an attitude that you have. It's about competence. It's about autonomy. It's about being a part of your own success, setting goals, and not only practice goals, but competition has its own goals as well. The goals that you have for practice, you don't have all of these crowd and people looking at you. So you have to tweak those goals when it's competition time. And it's good for coaches to understand that as well. Yeah, so the preparation is the same, but you have to teach them how to function inside of that arena. When I'm traveling with teams, we walk with a certain way. We walk into our arena, and our heads are up, and our chests are out. We're very humble. Yeah, we don't brag. People say hi, we say hi, but we know who we are, and we know who we represent. We have that strong sense of self. That is what mental toughness means to me. Yeah, and that's what I try to pass on to athletes.
Your co-host is a little blown away and trying not to get teary as like all this amazing energy is like being thrown at me. So everything.
I love it. No, I love it. It's Friday.
When we're done with this, I'm gonna have the best day because seriously.
That's right. I put a lot to that. You are special. If you didn't exist in this world, the world will be tilted without you. You gotta know that. You were supposed to be here.
Absolutely.
So embrace
okay.
it.
Moving on. All right. So do you feel? Okay. So do you feel that coaches need to address?
Breathe.
Okay.
No. Exhale. Go.
Good.
Good. Go.
Do you feel that coaches need to work differently with introverted versus extroverted athletes?
It's not really. You just got to know your athletes, and you got to know what introversion means and what extroversion means, because most people get it wrong in terms of energy. Yeah. So they think introverted athletes, you have to give them this big pep talk. And I always say to coaches, be careful who you bring in to give your athletes motivational talks before they compete. Because you do have athletes who are, as it would fall on that energy line as extroverted. And we see their behavior and they're always like, yeah, we're ready to go, coach. And then you have the athletes who are very laid back. But there's a reason why. So you got to know the reason why they are. And some of them would be in the middle, a little bit of both. So I explain this to coaches and I explain it to athletes as well, that the people who are most introverted are really extroverted, and I'll explain. And the people who are extroverted are really introverted in terms of energy. So let me break it down just a little bit for you. Now, when it comes to, there's a reason why introverted athletes or people are introverted, and that's because their energy level is already so high that they need to limit the stimuli that they are exposed to stay optimal, to stay balanced. So they go read, and they don't like being inside of too much crowds, because that could take them over the edge and get them into that place of anxiety. So they're already high. That's the nature of being extroverted. They're already high, so they need to come down. So if you give that pep talk to somebody who is introverted, you could send them over the top, outside of their optimal zone of functioning. Extroverted people, they're the ones who need to have, so they go out seeking stimulation from the environment in order to stay inside of that zone. They're the ones who are low. So that's why you would see when an extroverted person we call extroverted, when you see them, you would say, oh my gosh, they always need to have this energy. And when they don't have the energy, they're like, oh, I'm bored. I'm bored. How many times athletes tell you that? They need to find some kind of stimulation. And that's because they're so low that they need to have it in order to get up there. The pep talk might work for them. Does that make sense? So we have to understand what introversion and extroversion in terms of energy, what it means. And how we can.
The opposite of what I would have thought. Absolutely.
Most people, yeah. Yeah. That's my house light. I forgot to unplug it.
That's okay. Thank you for that amazing description. So we do have questions too about as far as book recommendations, possibly for high school and college athletes who don't have access to a sports psychologist. Are there other resources that we could direct them to?
Not all off my hand. I know that there is Pursuit of Excellence by Terry Orlick, Canadian sports psychologist. He is, his work is very well known, and there are just mind games. There's mind gym. I can't remember the author there, but Mind Gym is also one that is pretty popular. I haven't put mine out there as yet, otherwise I'll mention it, but I need to. But those are two of the most popular. I know our NSAF, there is one that we also use. I'm not sure if I'd see Thomas putting right, but there is one that they use in NSAF, and I can't remember what it is, and maybe we could get that out there as well, because Joy, one of our NSAF, sometimes I mix them up. Resources, Joy Kanani can help you with that one. So maybe Steve is on the call, so maybe we can get the name of that book, because it's pretty a good book as well. We give our athletes.
So do you have any advice on athletes this pandemic, the hardships of this year, even some athletes that are training out in California with all this smoke, and so different things that are interrupting their normal flow of training. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, I will. Not sure if it's advice. I've had athletes who, yesterday I had this amazing talk with one of the Olympians, and and they check in ever so often. And it's really looking at your season, looking at having that conversation with your coaches. We know that we are limited during this for the rest of the year, practically. Those who are preparing for the Olympics, well, we are in the unknown. So there are a lot of unknowns. The only good thing is that everybody's going through it. So a lot of it, I recommend a lot of mental rehearsal where you stay, because the brain has way the brain functions, it forms motor program, and we do have memory. Some people call muscle memory. I like saying sensory motor memory because it's a brain body relationship. And you have all these neurotransmitters that are exciting the muscles. So you could actually activate them. When I'm preparing athletes for like they're going through rounds and the Olympics, I will prepare them using mental imagery or mental visualization. Right? Mental imagery can activate the entire body and all of the muscles, and you could actually see yourself going through the motions from the track out of the blocks, and you practice that daily. For some athletes, when it's just an aside, athletes just before, I realized that some of them athletes are so powerful that they can go through a mental imagery and relive the crowd and the cheering and they could actually carry up their heart rate. So I learned with some athletes, I can't do that just before their performance. So I use a visualization where it's more like watching themselves on a television, and some people call it internal imagery. But they just looking, okay, all right, so this is what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna do. But really, this is a time to build your mental strength, your mental skills. Some athletes, NSAF, we try to say, that you keep your pattern, so if you know that you get up at a certain time, then you try to stick as close to that time. You pay attention to what you eat, reading things like the Mind Gym, those Pursuit of Excellence, those are good things to keep, and watching, there are great documentaries that are out there. Keep your mind involved. Right? Even some athletes would get up and dress as though they, and wear their uniform, just to keep, because we're all in the same boat right now. We're just trying to maintain. Reach out to each other. That's extremely important. Reach out to the persons that you're working with. So the athlete that I was talking about yesterday just came out of and just going on rest until next season, and he's going to just focus on family and time with his friends and all of that good stuff. Yeah, and stay positive.
Yeah.
Be the best you.
Well, it's just been absolutely amazing to have this time with you. And I feel like everybody in the audience feels ready to go attack the day, whatever they've got going on. The energy comes through the Zoom, which is really nice, especially me as a body worker and somebody who's in job is close contact with people. I feel like sometimes virtually the energy doesn't come through, but it blew my screen up today. So
yeah, energy, you feel it once it's authentic, and once you're confident inside of it, because I'm not trying. This is just me. I'm like this with my students, face to face. We just started this, the university opened this week, and I'm like that anywhere. I'm talking to kids outside in my neighborhood. I'm like this. So But I wasn't always like that, you know. I had to teach myself to push through going back into the past and learning how to let go. And I had to teach and I still have to do that every single day. I get up. I don't, when I have to work, and I travel with NSAF, I actually have to, every morning before I open that door to come out of my room, I go inside of this space. I pray a lot. I'm a prayer. I pray a lot, and because I always have to know that there is something bigger than me that I connect to. So, and athletes who would say, well, I don't believe in God, or and I said it's okay too. Have you ever stood besides on the shore of an ocean, in the sea? Do you see how big it is? Though, isn't that that's it teaches you to be humble, So you gotta find something that is bigger than you, and to understand that you always have to be grateful. You always have to say thank you. I always go into the future too, into the unknown, and I have to recognize those thoughts. Because it's a pattern. It's a pattern for all of us, and like, oh, what if, and oh my gosh, and did I say this right? Or, oh, this person, I don't like how this person respond to me. And I'm like, you are not a people pleaser. Stand in your truth. So I give myself, yeah, I talk to myself a lot, maybe, but it's always positive. I always say positive.
I guess all of our get out their own way. Everybody.
Say repeat that.
I said, I guess it's everybody's mission to get out of their own way.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
and get help. That's important. And get help. The creator is huge.
Well, I've just got so much gratitude for you. So thank you so much. It's been an honor to be here with you today. So.
Well, thank you. And thank you to all of the people who have such kind words in the chat. I glance at it every now and then, and I see Steve is looking for the book, so I hope he finds it so that he can share it. But I thank every one of you. Thank you, Tom, as well, for putting this summit on. I see that you had me close the summit, so I just smiled to myself, But
it's been a wonderful way to close it.
Yeah, I have another summit that's coming up with a Great Ocean Race. And that one is challenging because the ocean as a platform or as an arena is different from a court or a track or a runway. The ocean is proactive. It moves. And so working with sailors for the Great Ocean Race is amazing. So I am grateful to all of you and this opportunity to share my own challenges and what I've learned through the years. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And again, yes, thank you for sharing with us. So again, that was Dr. Margaret Ottley. And this has been a special day for us. So appreciate it. So get a little business going on. Since this is ending the summit, this afternoon we are holding the raffle for the prizes for those of you that have been watching all these interviews. And I'm going to do that live on Facebook Live at 3:00 p.m. Eastern. If you want to attend, don't need to, but keep your eyes open for whether or not you were a winner of any of the prizes. And then we need to thank again, NSAF for helping us make this happen, and athletic.net for the same. And then those prizes were coming from Altus in their Altus 360 video library, a 6-month and 12-month membership to that. We have earbuds from Jaybird, got 2 of their top-end earbuds. and JLab earbuds for theirs, all sport specific. From Nancy Clark, her sports nutrition guidebook, a signed copy. These signed specifically to you. The same with 2 copies of the Trail Runner's Companion written by Sarah Lavender Smith. 2 signed copies of the Anatomy of Sports Injuries written by Brad Walker, and a sampler pack from Honey Stinger. So these are some awesome prizes that you can win, just like I said, just being a part of this. So we'll see you back on Facebook at 3 o'clock today. And until then, take heart in everything that Dr. Ottley has mentioned today. And oh, hold on. Looks like Stephen has got the name of the book.
Yeah.
So hang on a moment. And so we will catch that. And, but yeah, it has been wonderful to see you all here. So.
Ah, there it is. Mind, Body, Mind Mastery. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Very good. Thank you, Steve.